Hello, and welcome to Encouraging Leadership, conversations that mobilize today's women leaders, with your host, Ann Miner. Meet leaders who share their observations, knowledge, insight, and perspectives to mobilize you to apply your own leadership in business and in life. Here's your host, Ann Miner.
Welcome to Encouraging Leadership, conversations to mobilize today's women leaders. I have with me Brenda Halloran. Now, Brenda was the mayor of Waterloo from 2016 until 2014, during which time she led the city through a very significant period of growth and focused on making the city globally renowned for being a center of innovation and technology. Brenda's passion is helping others reach their highest potential. Brenda, welcome.
Thank you very much, Anne. It's a pleasure to be speaking with you.
I'm so glad you're able to join us today, and I'm hoping that you'll share with me and with our listeners what led you to decide to run for mayor of Waterloo.
Well, I'd had quite a few incidences in my life that seemed to have led me to a time when I wanted to take a leadership position in the community. And the main thrust of it was that in the early 1990s, I'd gone through a very difficult marital split-up, and I bought a townhouse in Kitchener and found out 2 years later that it was built on a contaminated landfill site. And I ended up fighting against City Hall with my fellow neighbors in trying to get some type of assistance for our families to get moved out of this contaminated landfill area. It was not a healthy place for our families. And we really struggled, and there was a lot of difficulties in getting any type of movement from government agencies and municipal government and the health officers. And it was just a really difficult position to be in. And I ended up losing my house and my life savings and felt really compelled that when my life was settled and I was in a situation where I could step up and lead in a government way and get involved in municipal politics, that I would. Because I felt that really strongly about how we as citizens were not being treated properly by the government in power and by the people who we entrust to take care of us as citizens and families in the municipal world. So I just seemed to acquire this really difficult situation and decided to do something about it and affect change as best I could. Because to me, government is about helping people, and I felt that City Hall should be the heart of the community and should be there to help people. So in 2006, the municipal election was called that year, and I decided to run for mayor, and I was successful.
So you decided to take matters into your own hands. If we're going to need to see a change, we need to get involved and make the change.
Make the change. You know, a lot of us tend to sit back and say, well, that be kind of armchair critics. But I thought, I need to do something to satisfy the frustration I was feeling at how things had been for us as residents. So I stepped up and put myself forward and ran municipally.
All right. So now, what were the challenges that you faced when you decided to run? And I'm sure you're going to share your lessons learned, too, as you tell us about that.
Well, it was very challenging because, number one, I'd never been involved in any type of political world before, so I'd never been on a trustee of a school board or a municipal councillor. So I really did not have that type of background, but I had the experience of being a community advocate and a bit of a community activist for change, and was going to City Hall and talking at council and getting that experience and seeing how things work. So when I decided to run, I had no idea or concept of how do you run a political campaign, how much money do you need, where do you start. But I was really very, very fortunate and blessed to have a strong group of friends, especially my women friends through the Zonta Club, which is a women's international club. And we all banded together and we taught ourselves. And people came forward when I seemed to need them. People would offer their assistance, and people just were incredibly kind and forthcoming. And so we formed a campaign team, and we learned and taught ourselves as we went along. And a lot of people just liked what I was saying and believed in me and supported me, and we launched the campaign. It was interesting because we won, and I won substantially, and I was up against the incumbent mayor and the returning mayor, two gentlemen, and I was talking very differently about what I believed the community was all about, and had a different message to people, and talking about youth and the environment and job creation, and as a city, what is the values of a city? And it seemed to resonate with people at that time who I think were looking for a different type of leadership and where they wanted to see Waterloo head as a city. But the big challenges were for me, especially as a woman, was finding the financial money to run a campaign. For women running any type of government campaign, it's very, very hard to get the money. And I've talked to a lot of women about it, and this is a big challenge. Men seem to be able to fundraise more. Men seem to be able to find opportunities to get people to donate to their campaigns. But for women, it truly has been a struggle for a lot of women to get enough funding. And you have to be prepared to put in your own money and struggle with it. So, yeah, we learned a lot. Ran a great campaign, and very exciting to see how it just kind of evolved, how people came forward, and people really excited as much as I was to affect change and to see things come around in a different way for our municipal government.
So how would you describe your own leadership style?
Well, I tend to be more collaborative, and I listen more than I talk, so I'm always interested in other people's opinions and what they see as important, and then working together to make that happen for the group. So as the mayor of Waterloo, I really found it that it's so important that you listen to your constituents, you ask a lot of questions, gather a lot of information, and then work together on what the community wants and what they perceive to be their needs, instead of kind of being top-down. I found that being a leader, you work within your community, and it's more of a grassroots approach, more bottoms-up approach to finding what is needed by a community. Because as much as government wants to tell people what they need, I think we need to listen to people and find out what they want and then make that happen. So I believe in teamwork and working together and collaborating and building consensus and finding out what is so important to people that has to be done and working together to make it happen.
So a collaborative, grassroots or bottom up, would that be fair to that kind of terminology for describing how you approached your leadership as mayor?
Yes, and very much on consensus building as a group.
So how do you do that? This is very interesting to me, Brenda. How do you go about the consensus building?
Well, as a government, you spend a lot of time with your citizens, and we did a lot of community information sessions and going out and gathering information, like the staff would go out there and hold a lot of meetings and gathering that information from the citizens and asking for citizen input. And fortunately, as we are evolving, technology is allowing us to be even better at engaging citizens in making decisions for their communities because of open data now and a lot of social media, Facebook opportunities, Twitter. There's so many opportunities now to gather information from people and to ask them the questions that they want. And you work on strategic plans and creating a document that will create the working framework for municipal government for what the citizens have told you and fed back to you what they want. So, it's sitting with a lot of people and being available and being open and open to new suggestions and ideas and seeing what can be done based on how much your budgets allow, what your citizens are telling you, and what the long-term needs are for our community.
So once you were the mayor, what was the biggest challenge that you faced?
The city at that time was just overwhelmed by litigation. And we inherited quite a lot of litigation on a situation that had happened to prior mayors and councillors called Rim Park. And it was a large recreational facility that unfortunately there was a lot of issues with it, and we inherited that. So there's a lot of upheaval within this community over this. People are really upset about it. People are really just frustrated by what had happened to the city. So what we as council started to find ways to get through the litigation and clean up a lot of the things that we inherited and provide stability for the city and let people feel more trustworthy and relaxed about where we were heading. And that communication was so very important to reassure citizens that we heard what their concerns were when we campaigned, and we were there to not only listen but to enact a lot of the things that we had heard on the campaign. What was really exciting to me was that when I was elected in 2006, the prior mayor and council, it was an all-male council, and the 2006 Waterloo City Council was 4 women and 4 men. And in 2014, when I ran again, we ended up having 5 women and 3 men on our council. And it was really exciting to see that women were feeling powerful and that they were feeling empowered and stepping up and running for municipal office. It was really, really exciting and just wonderful to see.
Well, having achieved gender parity in 2006, my goodness, that was certainly very advanced by comparison to other communities and municipal governments and provincial governments, not to mention our federal government. Our federal government didn't get there till 2015.
It's not the truth, Anne. Yes, and luckily we have.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And showing that great leadership to other levels of government and boards of directors. You know, there's been a push to get more women involved in every aspect of the corporate world and the political world, the business world, and we do still face a lot of the glass ceiling type of idea, and it's frustrating. It's frustrating to me to see that. And so we were able to show that leadership and to make women feel that, yes, it does happen and it can happen to them. And I've for years encouraged women to run in any type of government position and offer my mentorship and support.
Right. And I remember you telling me that your mantra is, where are the women? Yes.
I say that many times. You know, for years as a mayor, there were only 16% of the mayors in Ontario were women, and those are really low statistics. So quite often I'm in meetings and it's mainly men, and pictures being taken, it's mainly men. So I often will be heard saying, where are the women?
Right. And as we know, the barriers to achieving gender parity are many, not the least of which reside within women ourselves. So I'm wondering, what advice do you have for women seeking leadership positions?
Well, I think it's really important to find a mentor and a coach who you feel very confident and comfortable speaking with, because it is a challenge to still break into areas where there are very few women, and you need that support, and you need to have a good network around you to build on and to go and consult from and get information from. I think that women should never ever feel insecure about trying for a new position or putting their name forward. I hear women say, well, I couldn't do it, or, well, I'm not that good or that smart enough. And I think, my goodness, we've got to get beyond that thinking ourselves. And as women, and women in leadership positions, and powerful women, and women who are in levels of influential positions, we need to work together and support the women who are in our world who are wanting to step up and join these types of organizations and get involved politically and try to get on board of directors where we're terribly underrepresented. So we need to support each other as women, and I talk a lot about that.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and that is vital, not only as mentors, but also as what are considered to be sponsors or champions. So beyond giving advice and counsel, wisdom and support, to actually take the initiative or take the risk of saying, this woman would be an ideal addition to your team, or an ideal contributor within your organization, and here's why. And the only way we can do that is if we know one another really thoroughly.
That's so true, Anne. And I offer my assistance to women, and I encourage every woman I speak to who is saying to me, well, I'm a little interested. I say, then let me help you. What do you want? What do you really want to do, and how can I help you attain your goals, and help them build a team and recommend others to them. And I think it's really important that we use our networks and utilize people that we know and connect each other and offer those opportunities to each other. And I don't think we do it as well as we should as women. I personally think that we tend to, again, undervalue our networks and our own net worth.
Yeah, let's take that apart. There's the undervalue our network, and then there's the undervalue ourselves. And, I was at the International Women's Forum of Canada conference this past weekend, and one of the other things that I noted was when people, they were all women, were receiving compliments or congratulations, that they deflected it. Most often they said, well, something like, oh, it took a village, or I had a great team with me, or, think about all these other people who contributed, instead of standing in the glory of the compliment. Yes, we know there were other people who helped. We're acknowledging your contribution, and it's perfectly okay for you to just absorb that and say, thank you for the compliment. And it became kind of a group conversation as we observed from the audience, one after another up at the microphone saying essentially the same thing. Oh no, it was, I didn't do it by myself, and without their leadership, it would not have happened.
Very true. But I think that's just the nature of us as women and as Canadians. We tend to be a little more humble and downplay our successes. And I've been actually challenged to the same thing. I was complimented on something. I said, wow, it's a lot of people. And the gentleman said to me, wait a minute. And he just stopped. Wait a minute. You stop that, Canadian, and tell me how you really feel. And I then said, thank you so much. I worked really hard to get where I'm at, and I really appreciate the recognition being received. But yes, I did work hard, and it kind of felt sweet. It felt kind of nice. But then inside, I'm like, oh my gosh, maybe I shouldn't have said that. So we can't change the humbleness that we are.
We don't seem to be able to shake it, hey?
Oh.
My goodness. Well, we'll need to practice. We'll need to practice with each other, and encourage one another to accept that positive feedback, that affirmation and acknowledgement, and take energy and empowerment from it.
Very true, Anne. So, Anne, I think you are a really strong leader. You are someone who really helps showcase women's leadership in our community, and we are all so proud of you.
Thank you, Brenda. I am certainly endeavoring to model the behavior that I believe will help women to achieve greater leadership success. See?
Well, you just star for that. Good for you. See, it's not so hard after all.
Right. So the other piece of that unbundling was the network, the power of our network. And what I have observed is that women seem to talk to one another about, issues and concerns and seek advice and guidance, and yet they may leave the conversation with someone they've newly met. Now we're connected, but we have not explored how we can help one another. We have not informed ourselves or informed the person we were speaking with how we're connected beyond, having common experiences. So we leave the conversation without knowing what the expertise of that other person is, and without asking the question, how can I help you to achieve, your vision for yourself? Yes. And as soon as we ask that question, the how can I help you achieve, not fix the problem, how can I help you advance your leadership towards the goal you've set for yourself, it's a different conversation.
It totally is, Anne, and I do that when I'm talking to someone. At the end of it, I will say to you, so how can we help each other? What is it together that we can do? Because I'd love to help you, and what do you want to do next? Is there anything I can do to help you? And I've now that's part of my conversation when I meet with anybody, but especially with women, because I'm so compelled to help women achieve their goals, because we're lacking that in so many ways. And you are absolutely right. Women forget. I don't think it's that they don't want to. I think they kind of forget that last question is one of the most important ones to your future success and to helping someone else attain their goals. So, I encourage women to it's maybe a little bit of an uncomfortable feeling, because it might feel a little more assertive or something that we're not as comfortable doing. But it is such an important last question when you're talking with someone and you're building your networks. Is how can I help you? And geez, I wouldn't mind if could you connect me to, so-and-so, or can we just help each other out?
Absolutely. And you'd be surprised how easy it becomes. So to give you an example, again, back to this conference, the woman who served as the fundraiser for the conference, she was the chair of sponsorship, a word that has multiple meanings in this conversation, but she organized the outreach, and she raised a significant amount of money to help move the conference into a completely new sphere. Without those sponsorship dollars, I don't think any of us would have been able to afford to go to the conference. But the small audience and the high cost of the fabulous speakers that we had brought in. So when I asked her, so a little bit different question, but, what's next for you? What would you like to be doing next? And how can I help you do that? She told me that she would like to work with the global organization. Well, I can help make that happen. It took 10 minutes max. I sent an email to the person who is at the international level, heading up, who sits on the board and is responsible for that area, and simply said to her, I've just been working with this woman on the conference organization. She did a fabulous job, practically single-handed, organized all of the talking points and the documents that are needed and the follow-up and the care and feeding of your sponsors. And she would be fabulous. She would be a fabulous support to the global organization. And she will be on that committee before the end of this month.
Oh, and that's really, you're leading by example and following through and making things happen for people. And boy, thank you so much for that. And to all the listeners, Anne has been doing that for me and has opened doors for me, which I might not have been ever able to get through, or to know people who I can connect with. So what a great example, Anne, that you're doing this yourself, and hopefully your listeners who may be a little hesitant or think, well, maybe my networks aren't as valuable or I don't know the right people, just try it. Just check it out and see. And you never know who you can connect and what impact you can have on people, because it always comes back to helping you as well.
Well, exactly. And isn't it so satisfying when you see that you've been able to have an impact? when you
truly
see
is.
people, advancing towards their own unique personal potential. And just, I don't need credit for it. I don't need to be telling people I had a hand in that. I just take pride myself in knowing that I did have a little something to offer as a hand up, as opposed to a handout. No, that's not what we're asking for. And for listeners and for you as well, Brenda, I think when we can get to a place where we actually say, when someone asks, have an answer. When someone asks you, how can I help you achieve what the goals you've set for yourself, have an answer. You don't know what they can do. You don't know, who's within 6 degrees of separation from the person you're speaking to.
It's very, very true. And, there comes such great personal satisfaction from being able to do that for someone, because people have done it for me, and that I look at that as well. Like, how many people have helped me through my life, and just taking that extra 5 minutes to say, how can I help you? And I have had an answer. Sometimes, that answer has always been, I don't know right now, but I will make sure that when I do know, I'll contact you.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Just keeping that opportunity open, because sometimes you'll meet somebody and you'll think, I'm not sure, but I'm going to keep them close because I know that there will be someday or something that I would be able to benefit from their wise counsel or their networks, or just even being able to talk to them again and running things by them or getting a little bit of mentoring help from them. Sometimes I think people put a lot of emphasis on mentoring and coaching, that it has to be a really structured sit-down discussion. But to me, mentoring can be a 15-minute discussion with someone on an amusing question you have or something you're a little bit thinking, I'm not sure about this, can I ask you? And mentoring can be just as simple as that.
Well, that's a really great point, too. I agree with you that sometimes we think of having a mentor. Well, if you think about everyone in your network as being a potential network in the moment, a potential mentor for a specific question, and it means that you need to have an ongoing dialogue with your network, though, doesn't it? You need to know, the more you know about one another, the more effective you can be.
Very true. And I think you've coined a wonderful phrase, mentor in the moment. That's so true.
And I think you're right. I think we'll use that again. I have another one up that I apparently invented. It's called up mentoring. And up mentoring, that is when we have people who are either younger than, usually they're going to be younger than me anyway, but younger, with new knowledge, new fresh knowledge, technology-related knowledge, for example, who can mentor us on how to use it, or, what's the purpose of it, or how it helps whomever. That we needn't look upon mentoring as a one-way street.
Very, very true. And I love that you kind of put it into the whole age bracket, because as you do become more mature in your professional world, we don't have all the answers. I don't have all the answers for myself. And I'm finding now that, especially on technology and the things that are happening, the fascinating things that are happening with startups and entrepreneurs, that I love talking to millennials and younger people and learning from them, because they have a different aspect on things, or they know so much more than I ever will in their field of expertise. So I totally agree with you, Anne. It's not about age or stage in your life. It's about just learning from each other and finding people who can mentor you in the moment.
Absolutely. So, Brenda, we're almost out of time. Is there one last message you'd like to leave with my listeners?
I always go back to the same thing, is that always, always trust your instinct and believe in yourself, and don't be afraid to take risks and try to put yourself out there and network and mentor for other people, and always seek help. Never be afraid to ask for help, and you'd be surprised. Everybody's willing to step up and help you in any way they can. I do it for others, and I encourage you to do that for people who reach out to you.
Oh, Brenda, what a great way to wrap up our show today. Thank you so very much for sharing your experience and your expertise with us. I know that our listeners will have learned a great deal and have some things to think about as they go forward. Listeners, thank you also for being with us today, and I do hope that you will join us every Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Encouraging Leadership, Conversations to Mobilize Today's Women Leaders.
Thank you for listening to Encouraging Leadership. To learn more about our host, Ann Miner, and the Acacia Institute, please visit acaciainstitute.com. Join us next week at the same time, 1 p.m. Eastern, for more Encouraging Leadership. In the meantime, be courageous.